same idea, interrupted it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've received the okay from Sebastian. We're good to go.
Thanks, Leslie.
Great. Well, let's officially kick this off with a call to order. And Leslie, can you take the roll call, please?
Linda Calafiore.
Present.
Donna Jett.
Present.
Ellen Martin.
Present.
John Mysick.
Present.
Judy Refuerzo.
Here.
Okay, we're all here. Thank you.
Great. Maybe starting off with any announcements from commissioners. I guess I'd start and just say thank you to the team, Ashley, Leslie, the whole Public Works team. I mean, the work that you've done over the last month and a half, 2 months has been incredible. And I think, speaking on behalf of our family, certainly made for a fun holiday season and a kickoff to the holiday season coming out of Thanksgiving and going right to the tree lighting. I thought it was just such a great experience for our kids, and they were as cold as they've ever been on December 3rd in Carmel after the time in the snow, but it was fantastic. So thank you very much. Donna?
Wanted to, anyone listen to the Friday letter, Ashley and Chip were on it, that Jenny Mcmurdo is leaving the chamber. And that was a big surprise, and a very big surprise to me. And I don't know if anyone else saw the Friday or watched the Friday letter. I do every Friday, and Ashley was on it, and Ashley thanked a lot of people. So thank you, Ashley, for being on it. But I hope she's successful over in PG.
Yeah.
That's a segue. Sorry, John, can I go?
Yeah, please.
No, that's a segue into someone else who's leaving. And one of my questions, I don't know if Ashley, where you're going to address the fact that you are no longer going to be our director. And then I was wondering if there was any decision about our term limits.
Yeah.
I know that that was discussed at City Council, but I didn't seem to read anything about it. Thank you.
Did you see the paper?
Yes, but I don't know what the decision was.
Yeah, I was waiting for Ashley too to answer that.
No, maybe before Ashley addresses that, maybe Ellen, I know you had your hand up. Let's go to Ellen, and then we'll have Ashley speak during the announcements on staff.
Yes, I think that it's a big loss for Carmel and a big gain for Pacific Grove. And we're sorry to see her leave Carmel. And then I also wanted to say, because I wasn't personally involved, that the city of Carmel is twinkling, it's magical. And thank you to everyone, all the commissioners and the staff, and Ashley and Leslie who made that happen. It just is bringing a lot of joy to a lot of people this December. So thank you so much.
Any other announcements? It looks like we're good. Okay, announcements from staff.
Announcements from staff. So yes, it is a loss for us that Jenny Mcmurdo is leaving. I did reach out to her and email my congratulations to her on a new job, because it's always exciting to have a new endeavor, but we will miss her as our director of the Chamber of Commerce. And I did do a shout out to this commission in particular. This was a very challenging event season, and all of you really stepped up and worked on events in a way that I haven't seen in the past. All of the little ad hoc committees that we formed throughout event season were so helpful to Leslie and I for planning these events. And I'd actually like to see it continue on regardless of what our staffing levels are, because having all of your ideas and unique perspectives, having in some cases worked the events or different events that you attended, and bringing all of that was just really helpful and made it more fun to work on things. So thank you all so much. Our events would not have been as great as they were without this commission. You guys are really terrific. And then the term limits, Donna had that chart up. Councilmember Barron is supposed to be reaching out to all of the board and commission members. It sounds like he hasn't. I had some questions last week from the Library Board of Trustees about that same thing. So what I'll do is email out that chart that Donna held up. The council decided on, there's 3 columns, bad, good, and slightly better than good. The council decided to go with the slightly better than good column, which is the far right-hand side. So if there is an issue with the term extensions, for instance, if you were thinking of just letting yourself term out and not expiring, or you were, just waiting because you're tired, or whatever the reason is, let me know. And we can work on those things, but I will email that chart out to all of you after this meeting. Linda, you had
Well, Judy and I were the ones that were impacted, next April. So I was just wondering, I don't have that chart in front of me. So were we extended or?
Let me see if I have it up on my desktop here. Let's see.
Yeah, they're extended for 1 year to 23.
Yeah, so you and Judy would both be expiring in the spring of 2023. John would be 2024, and Donna and Ellen would be 2025.
Thank you.
And then the other thing normally that we have on this agenda would be the appointments of the new chair and vice chair. I did not include that because I realized the impact of changing the new appointment date to the spring. We should probably do election of officers in June or July rather than that, because if we pick somebody now who potentially has their term coming up in the following year and they're not reappointed by the council, then that will cause us problems and more work in the end. So I will be working on a review of the bylaws to bring that back to all of you to make that adjustment so that we do appointment of officers. So if Judy and John don't mind an extension of their terms as chair and vice chair, I would appreciate that, and it would help us in the long term if you can just make it to June.
Sure.
Good. And then Linda brought up my news about not being director anymore, and that's something I'm working on figuring out for what the transition looks like. And you'll probably see me around. That recruitment hasn't been opened up quite yet, so I will be here keeping things running until such time as we have a new director for both library community activities. So you will not be abandoned. Keep things moving.
Thank you.
Yes, I will still be here. I will still make sure things are running, and we're working on our strategic plan, and we'll be good because we've got some really good momentum with this commission, and I want to see it continue on. And that's all the announcements that I have.
Great. Public appearances for any items not on the agenda.
John, I'd like to say something. This is Dale Byrne.
Sure, Dale, go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to ditto your comments, John, about the incredible job that the staff and this commission has done on the events, not just over the last month, but really over the last 6 months, really. When you look back a year ago where we were, it's really heartening to see you guys come together and really put some incredible events out for the community. And I'd like to thank just the commission in general for the great job you've done this year. And we're looking forward, as Carmel Cares, to partnering with you next year. Don't be afraid to reach out to us for help whenever you need it. And we've got a lot of interesting projects that we're going to be doing next year, including I've been having minor discussions with Mayor Potter about putting a proposal forward for the Scout House. So hopefully that will either stir up some other people to be interested, or we can put forward a proposal that can be accepted, and we'll move forward on an interesting project with that. So once again, looking forward to working with you next year, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Dale. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any comments, or does somebody want to make a motion?
Sure.
Linda?
I move to approve the minutes from November 9th.
I'll second that.
Judy.
Okay. Judy seconded. Leslie?
Linda Calafiore,
Yes.
Donna Jett,
Yes.
Ellen Martin,
Yes.
John Mysick,
Yes.
Judy Referza.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Next is to approve the proposed meeting dates for 2020 or for 2022. Does anybody have any issues with that?
Donna?
Yeah, I have a question. The February one, I will be in LA. And if we're on Zoom, I'm fine. And if we're not, well, then I would be absent. That's my only conflict. And it was a commitment I made a year ago because I know when these meetings are. But we had talked about moving it to 4 o'clock on some days. But again, I don't know if that's viable, but I'm happy with this. This used to be on Wednesdays, this meeting, and they moved it to Tuesday several years ago. So, but I'm happy with it if everybody else is.
So I anticipate that the council will start meeting in person in February. And I think that the boards and commissions will follow suit in the following month. So I anticipate that we will still be on Zoom in February. So you should be okay, Donna.
Thank you.
The only thing I need to double check. I believe the 12th is the same week as the River School spring break, I believe. I got to double check that. I just know that's always tough with anybody in the community trying to be here or dial in during those breaks.
John, I don't have the paper in front of me. The 12th of what?
Of April, sorry. Apologies.
Okay, thank you.
I'm trying to look up the calendar.
And while you're doing that, John, in March, I will be in Mexico. But if we do Zoom, I'll be able to attend.
This September meeting, I will be cruising the Mediterranean, hopefully, and I will not be Zooming in.
Fantastic. And I just want to remind everybody here, thank you for all of these dates. We're probably not going to shift everything so we have full attendance at every meeting because, everybody has lives and vacations, which we should do and prioritize. But per the municipal code, you can miss up to 2 meetings per year. So if that's the case, I'm sad when all of us aren't together, but it's not the end of the world if we do that.
Yeah, no, I just think it's good in case more than one person had a conflict.
Yes, no, that is good.
So that 12th is the spring break. But again, if I'm the only one and depending on where we are, I'm happy to try to get dial in.
Very good.
Donna?
Yeah, and I'm gone the week in January. I will be in Hawaii. And also the new state mandate might change us pushing out meeting in person. I don't know, since masks are going to be required indoors until the January 15th.
Yes. And I have a meeting this week, just for your knowledge, with our HR director and Leslie to talk about, because we worked on this back in September, what in-person meetings would look like in the City Hall Council Chamber. It's a very small space for those of you who've been there, nice high ceilings, but very small. So we will be revisiting that original discussion and seeing what those would look like. And it may be that is postponed again. I'm not sure, but we want to be as prepared as possible for in-person.
Okay. So, I guess with all this, does somebody want to make a motion, understanding that there are going to be times when somebody has to miss? Does somebody want to make a motion? Donna, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I wanted to say that it has happened that if 3 people can't be there, we've rescheduled. So I don't think, if one can't be there, we understand. Each of us have come up with a date. Luckily, we didn't all decide to go to Hawaii the same week. But, we have had canceled a meeting and then rescheduled it, and that has worked too.
Yeah, so we can. So if you all just keep me in the loop and up to date, then if you're going to miss a meeting, and let me know in advance if possible. And that way we can cancel a meeting, because we can't go forward with less than 3 people. And if for some reason we have 3 people, but something that's kind of a high level discussion that really, it should be the whole commission. We know we should be continuing items and revisiting them at the next meeting, but we should be okay. But thank you all for letting Leslie and I know what your availability is for this calendar.
I make a motion that we accept the calendar as proposed.
I second. Leslie?
Linda Calafiore,
Yes.
Donna Jett,
Yes.
Ellen Martin,
Yes.
Don Mysick,
Yes.
Judy Refresco.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Great, thank you. After action report on Home Crafters Marketplace.
All right. So for Home Crafters Marketplace, we did jurying this year at the end of September at the Women's Club, which worked really well. Thank you, Donna, for helping us to get scheduled with that. It was nice, especially in the light of COVID, to have more space to spread out. It was pretty steady all day long. We had 11 people who were rejurying. There was a lot of uncertainty among the vendors in general. We had a lot of last minute people making decisions about whether or not they wanted to participate in the marketplace because COVID were a lot of the reasons. And then some people just, had life stuff that was coming up. Leslie and I made the decision if they were supposed to rejury or if they were just uncertain and it wasn't a rejurying year for them, we're just going to carry them over. 75% of our vendors have been with us for 30 years, somewhere in that range. And the last 2 years have been very tough for everybody. So rather than, usually if somebody doesn't show up, we have them rejury regardless of the reason. And so next year, we're just going to carry a lot of people over. We had a lot of new people too, that I think were a good addition to the market. The Host Lions were back again. And then the other addition that we had this year was the farmers market up in the upper lot by the box office, which I think was pretty well received. They had steady business. The farmers market vendors were very happy to be there. So I think we should continue doing that. And hopefully we'll see additional market vendors participate in that going forward. And we received a lot of good feedback from the vendors in general. And this is something that I feel proud of, but consistently from our vendors who participate in a lot of different craft shows, we get high praise about a level of organization for this event. People coming in, I know for all of us who have worked in the morning, we can get some vendors who are a little grouchy at 4 o'clock in the morning. But by the end of the day, everybody's usually best friends and it runs really smoothly. So thank you to all who were there at 4 o'clock in the morning, despite the fact that I couldn't get there at 4 o'clock in the morning this year. I'm gonna preempt your teasing. We did do some tweaking for the event this year. We added the farmers market. We also added a Wi-Fi signal at Sunset Center so that it would reach out into the parking lot. Sometimes vendors were able to access that and others weren't. So we worked with IT this year to make sure that signal was boosted. So everybody who was taking credit cards and things had adequate Wi-Fi signals. We posted the lot closed signs earlier this year than we have in previous years, which I think worked well. Every Home Crafters, in my recent memory, it seems like we always have one car that needs to be towed smack in the middle of everything. And that was not the case this year, unless that happened before I got here first, but I remember hearing about getting towed. Things that we can work on, just moving some signage around, making sure that we have somebody at the exit to the parking lot on 8th. We had some vendors every year. It doesn't matter how many maps and communications we send out. At 4 o'clock in the morning when it's dark in Carmel and no street lights, people are going to get confused and turned around. So making sure we've got somebody dedicated to that 8th Avenue entrance to make sure no one's coming in backwards. scheduling the health department inspection for after the Lions are set up or any of our food vendors. That way they have adequate time for that. And making sure our farmers market vendors we've asked them and let them know early enough in, say October to see if they want to participate so we can increase that number. And that's basically it. It was a great day. It was the warmest home crafters I've ever worked. Usually we're freezing.
It was cold at like 4:30.
Well, I didn't manage to get there till later than that, so I missed the cold, I guess. But it was a lovely day, and we did partner with the Church of the Wayfarer and with All Saints, who also had craft fairs going that day, and we did a shared ad in the Pine Cone and shared advertising. That's become a thing. And we were happy to work with them on that and get postcards out to all the hotels and signage up wherever we could on bulletin boards around town. And it's really nice to be able to work collaboratively like that with our community groups.
All right, Donna?
Someone has asked me, how much do we charge the vendors?
Leslie, I'll yield that to you because I'm blanking out.
For their juring, if they have to juror, it's $25, and then the booth fee is $205.
Okay, thank you.
Judy?
Yes, I just want to say that all the people in our area, and even not in our area, because I talked to several of the other vendors, they all made a lot of money. Everybody was really, really happy. And what was I had a question and now it just slipped my mind. I had several people ask, so we had more room, so everybody got a little more space. And some people wanted to know if they could buy 2 spaces next year. I mean, is that possible? Do we do that, Leslie?
Yes, they just pay for 2 booth spaces, so it would be $205 for each booth. And they just, when they turn in their application, they would just have to let me know that so that I can make the map with 2 spots for them.
I have another question.
Please. Donna.
Oh, part of my other question was nonprofits. If anyone like Red Cross, I'm used as an example, wanted to have a booth, they have to go through the same process, jury, and pay the fee, which is fine. I just know the West End let the nonprofits for free, but they had a lot more room. So that's a question somebody else asked me about nonprofits.
I mean, it depends on what the purpose of the nonprofits are there. I know we've, in the past, it's been a couple of years, but we used to have the CYC there doing food as well. I don't believe we charge them for that. And, if they're doing a fundraiser and they're a local Carmel, committee, we would not. And if they're just there as for informational purposes, especially in that case, then no, we wouldn't have them go through any sort of process like that if that was. But if it's, something like, I'm going to use the Women's Club as an example, Donna, the fundraiser you do with the gourds and the succulents, we might have something like that go through a jurying process, not the fees and everything, but just to make sure it's, been through the same routine as everybody else.
Actually, it was for another nonprofit that had asked me about it because we have the space to, to piggyback onto it. And I think next year we will piggyback on that same date. And now we've got someone who's offered to chair it. So, yeah. But another nonprofit had asked me, and I don't know, but I can send them to Leslie.
Yeah, I mean, depending on space, I mean, the priority space would be for our vendors because that's the purpose of the Home Crafters Marketplace. But if we've got space and we have nonprofit groups that want to participate and hand out, their information or do a little fundraiser around the holidays, I just think that's good community connections, especially with the foot traffic that we get at Home Crafters, because it was very busy, especially if you were there for the first 2 hours of the market. Every vendor was absolutely mobbed. So I think getting the word out about some of our good community organizations is great. And that's a good opportunity to do it.
Actually, whether it be through this side of the discussion, I know it's tricky if we go to the I was just thinking it'd be really nice to have a coffee and donut or pastry vendor there early.
That's always
not only for us, but also for the folks that are setting up. I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, that's always our challenge is 4 a.m. I think I know Dale's listening. There was one year that he brought down coffee and pastries to us. There's just nothing open that early. I mean, not even Starbucks. And so, we got donuts from Dutch Door as quick as we could. And the Lions are there as early as they can be for setting up for coffee and pastries. But we can, we'll add that to the after action list too, as an idea to see and just keep exploring how do we get people coffee.
If somebody wants, I guess theoretically throw it out there if somebody wants, if one of the local bakeries or
Carmel
coffee shops wanted to do it.
Carmel Coffee has some kind of systems that might be, if they were approached, and they have staff. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Our Brunos or somebody who's willing to do it and not charge them as a vendor unless we got a coffee truck in there.
Maybe we need to talk to our Nitro Cycle guy and see if he's available to show up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Because as long as he's got power, he can do hot coffee. I just learned that. So that could be an option.
Great. Any other comments? Any comments from the public? Okay, I don't see any, so let's move on to the next item on the list, which, is Winter Wonderland Action Report.
So this year, every year we have our annual holiday tree lighting event and menorah lighting. And obviously last year it was canceled, our big gathering, though we did put lights up and we did light the menorah. And so coming back to this, and the Community Activities Commission did a poinsettia giveaway at the farmers market last year that was well received. I didn't ask about that again because we had the Lions doing poinsettia sales as part of the community group participation in the farmers market. So we had plenty of poinsettias going around. Because of everything happening with COVID and just staff capacity in general for planning the event, we this year eliminated the big program portion of the tree lighting event. Typically we have choirs from the local schools and some local performers, dance troupes perform at the holiday tree lighting. And instead we went a different direction and we decided to try something new, which was snow in the park. Instead of the big program, we had 10 tons of snow in the middle of Devendorf Park. And I think it went pretty well. I would maybe double or triple the amount of snow if it's something that the city wants to do again. The snow was delivered at 11:30. It took about 45 minutes to pump all that snow in. And we did close down Ocean Avenue on both sides because we knew the Carmel Plaza was going to be having their event later in the evening. That way people could make their way over safely without worrying about crossing that street in the dark. In past years, we have had officers there at that Ocean and Unipro intersection because of the Living Nativity at the Presbyterian Church across the street, but that event was canceled this year. So we just kept it simple and kept the street closed. I haven't heard any complaints about the snow. Everybody had a lot of fun, I think. It was something new and interesting. And we didn't do a lot of advertising about it. And in the advertising that we did do, I didn't explicitly state that there would be snow in the park. I wanted to keep this small. Not certain of how it would be received by the community, and I didn't want us to necessarily be inundated with everybody from the peninsula. I know I have heard that there are snow events, of course, in Caledonia Park and Pacific Grove, and there's another one in Salinas, and I've heard that those events are just mobbed. And so to that end, just keeping things kind of quiet, and it worked pretty well. I think the kids in the community had a wonderful time. For people who think that there are no young families and children in town, if you were in the park on December 3rd, you were proven very wrong. There are tons of children, tons of children who love snow. And it was such a good feeling to see them having fun. And for those who didn't have children or were just bystanders, the number of people that came up who didn't have children came up to me and said, "This is wonderful. I'm so happy to see kids having fun, and I can't believe there's snow here." It was really great. I did have questions about the program, but no complaints about, you need to bring it back. So I'm not sure what the advice would be for next year. If we did anything, it might be abbreviated. We did have Glastonbury come in, who usually does the sound for the program, and they installed speakers throughout the park so we could have festive holiday music and a proper sound system for the menorah lighting and for the tree lighting. So that worked really well, and I think it really was nice in the park. Typically what happens is that the program is ongoing, and so if you're not on the street watching the program, you can't really hear the music as well in the park. And this time you could, and it lent an air of festivity to everything. As I said earlier, next year I would double or triple the amount of snow. If we continue to have snow in the park, we could have used more of it. But by the end, even though it was a little muddy, kids were still throwing snowballs at 6 o'clock at night. And thankfully the weather cooperated, so it stayed relatively cool. We did, because we were uncertain of where we were having the snow pen and did some shifting around the day of, we did have Santa in a different location under the big oak tree in the northwest corner or the southwest corner of the park. I'd move him back to where he's been in previous years, which is the opposite side, the mirror side. The lighting is better there. And for people who were taking their holiday pictures. And that is what I have for the tree lighting event.
I'd just say real quick, I think it was incredible. Great job. Execution was so well done. The only comments I'd make, I think it might be interesting. I agree with the 3 tons of snow versus the 1. We'd love to try to get them to come in more at call it 2 o'clock. And I think with some more notice, and now that we have a reputation with the company we hired, maybe they can lay it down right before so it lasts a little longer. The other idea might be to split off a smaller pen of a ton of snow for kids under the age of 10. And then, if kids under the age of 10 want to go into the bigger pen, great, but it lets parents with littles have their space, and then lets the older kids and maybe a couple of the adults on this call today might have spent some time in there too, from what I remember. But I think it allows for nice separation. And I felt like there was enough room in the park to allow for that type of separation between the two. But otherwise, the comments that we received that I heard and that my kids were putting forth were so positive on that experience. So thank you very much. Let's see, Donna?
Oh, now there were children from out of towners who were just walking by, and the kids saw the snow. And of course the parents were excited. And then the foursome walked by, and the lady looked at me and she goes, "Snow, we're from Canada. This is wonderful." If you listen to comments, it was like the gathering with the drum for Halloween. People didn't want to leave. And even if you didn't have kids, it was fun to watch them and see them out there without gloves, and little girls in short skirts with their school uniforms, oblivious to the cold, other than more snow, and maybe decorate I call it a corral. And my idea this past year was to put some bales of hay, which I understand is hard to get, around the sides that people wanted to sit a little bit and watch their kids. But it was a real gathering for everybody. Nobody wanted to leave. So congratulations to John and Ashley and the team for making it happen.
Linda.
Well, I mean, kudos all the way around, and it's wonderful to receive it from everyone. But what I really liked was the element of surprise. I mean, we really did a good job. I mean, of not having people anticipate what was happening. And I would just say that, you know, the bar has been raised. Same thing with the lights down the median last year. I mean, it took people by surprise, and I don't know how we're going to keep. I mean, it will challenge us to keep things fresh. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, two other things. Oh, Judy, sorry, you first, please, Judy.
Sorry. Yeah, it was great. I was there when they were streaming the snow into the park. It was a lot of fun. Tourists were coming up watching. Everybody thought it was a good idea. And the snow lasted, but we were so lucky because of the cold weather, since it had been 75 like a few days earlier. There was snow the next morning when we went to the beach. You know, we looked in the park and there was still snow. So it lasted a while. I think even Sunday morning I saw a little bit, but yeah, great job. Brilliant idea.
Thanks, Judy. Ashley, just two other thoughts. One, it would be, I'd be open, I'd be interested to see if we could invite someone to come either sell, or if the city wanted to pay for hot chocolate or, you know, some warm beverage. I thought that would be a great ad. My hands were freezing watching my kids throw snowballs, but I think that would be a fun way to kind of give somebody a holiday beverage. And then, you know, I guess to Linda's point, to the extent we do this again next year, I'd recommend that we continue with the advertising profile, where we're not specifically announcing, you know, a snow park, but keeping it kind of the Winter Wonderland theme. And if people start catching on to it, great. But I like that comment. I think I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree that hot chocolate would be a great addition. We used to have the Red Cross do that in years past with cookies, and they did cider, I think. So I think that would be a good addition. And to the extent that, and I've given this some thought, that we continue on with snow in the park, in order to not avoid, you know, being a mob scene or not having it added to the tree lighting every year. I would even consider doing some sort of floating snow day in December. Like, it's just a pop-up event. And if you know, we're quiet about the advertising, but we have snow in the park, but something, I would think about something like that and add that to the list of considerations.
Great, I think Ellen.
Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't there. You know, I do the Monterey's Christmas tree lighting, and maybe we can find a nonprofit or the chamber. I made 10 gallons of cider and had whipped cream to put in the cup too, and we ran out of that before even we lit our tree. And then the Monterey Marriott donated 400 cookies, and those went like, so maybe we can get a local restaurant or a hotel, El Fornayo or somebody, who would make the cookies and donate it. And then what I do is Starbucks give me their large canisters to use for that day. And, you know, it's pretty easy. So that's something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Great suggestion. Anyone else on the commission? All right, we'll open it up to public comment. I don't see any public comment. All right, let's move to the next item. Receive an update on the farmers market.
So the farmers market continues to do very well. We've got new vendors in and out all the time, which is great. It'll probably be a little quiet through the rest of the month. The market that we'll be having on the 23rd will be smaller than normal. Or is it the 23rd or the 30th, Leslie? One of them is going to be abbreviated, so we'll have fewer vendors just because of the holidays. So we will spread out through the full L shape, but it will be fewer vendors in the past, and that's just normal for this time of year. And then we keep having our community groups participate in the market. Our steadiest one are the Friends of the Library, and they've been doing some good fundraising. And then we, of course, have some of our regulars, which is Carmel Cares, the Residents Association, the American Legion has joined us for some weeks, and the Village Preservation Community. And this system seems to be working pretty well. keeping track for that. So two community groups per market, and that is terrific. I did speak at previous meetings about potentially doing some sort of pop-up events in the park, and we just haven't gotten there. Our market manager has had some other projects going on, and then we were in the thick of event season. It's not to say I've forgotten about it, but it'll give us the early part of the year to plan for it as we go into the springtime and the time change too. So it's later in the park when we get there to doing those types of activities. And that is all I have for the moment. Oh, and we continue to work on signage, increasing signage, moving it around. They've been playing with that. And the last few weeks, they've had their information booth right there in the middle of the market, which I think is great as well. So that's what I have for the farmers market.
Any comments from commissioners? All right. From the public, I see Joe. Joe, please go ahead. Let's see. I saw her raising her hand. Joe, do you want to say anything?
Wait, I'm sorry. I forgot to unmute. I lowered my hand, but I didn't. Ashley, is there a farmer's market on the 23rd?
There is a farmer's market on the 20th.
Okay, great. I'm very happy.
And on the 30th, right before the
wonderful.
New Year's
That's
Eve.
wonderful, because before they closed, and I was wondering why. Very good. I was wondering about the, again, I mentioned about signage on Ocean and Unipero. Someplace there's no signage on the other side, and there's been talk about that, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'm just mentioning that again. And the farmers market is really great, though. Okay, I think that's it, the signage. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
I'm sorry, it looks like Judy has something to say.
Yes, the last time I was at the farmers market, which was like 2 weeks ago, I noticed that there were quite a few food vendors. And is that still in line with the rules of the market? Have we heard any feedback? Is anyone concerned? I mean, there were ribs, there were all kinds of food, which is nice, but I didn't know if any of the restaurants were saying anything about it.
I haven't received any feedback from the restaurants about it. At this time of year, I know we're adjacent to the salad bowl, but we do see fewer produce vendors, less fresh produce. And so I think that's a natural thing to have happen, to try out some of the vendors that are food vendors. It's still in keeping with our rules, and we'll just continue to reinvestigate and make sure that our restaurateurs are happy. Part of the Thursday night things that we would like to do after the market would involve our restaurateurs directly in doing some sort of pop-up events. I do know that we've had restaurants participate in the past in the market, but it is a challenge with staff, and now more than ever with COVID for our restaurateurs, staffing continues to be an issue in capacity. So we'll make sure that they continue to be okay with the market and are happy with things, and keep tabs on who our vendors are and make sure there's a good balance between prepared foods and produce.
Anna?
The entertainment at the market, I assume those are just volunteers that you might give change to or money to. Have we thought about, like at Christmas, I was thinking about it could be even piped in, but holiday music like we did in the park. Our Christmas carolers are sort of during the farmers market, when they're sort of like we do pumpkins or poinsettias or something, thinking about some kind of music that would start maybe late and then continue in the park, as you've talked about, because it's a little quiet there sometimes. Not that it should be blaring, but I was thinking about that for holidays, or just something special once in a while, like a pop-up little entertainment.
Yeah, we can work with our market manager on that for the future. I agree. That would be very festive. I do know that I had spoken with the market manager about when we were looking at having, you know, live music in the park for the tree lighting. We did discuss some of our market performers, our regular performers, and they had been practicing holiday music. So you will be hearing that at the market. They were specifically doing that. So not the same thing as the speakers, but we will have festive holiday music for the next few markets.
Looks like those are all the comments we have there. Moving on, I guess, to the updates on 2022 special events calendar.
So we have the proposed 2022 events calendar. Of course, some of the dates are to be determined. They're dependent on, in like the instance of the sandcastle contest, the tides. So we'll work with the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, the Monterey Bay chapter on determining those dates. And then we do have some regularly occurring events included here that are from outside organizers, but that have been part of our regular event calendar for years. So we do have firm dates for the Carmel Art Festival. And then we have heard from the Carmel Surf about event organizers, so that will be happening. And otherwise, everything else is pretty much business as usual. This is kind of our downtime for community activities in terms of events. So if you have any thoughts about the calendar or anything that we should add or subtract, let us know.
Donna?
I read, I guess, in the chamber that the culinary week is not closing the street. I don't know if everybody knew that. They're moving their event into Carmel Plaza because we voted last month to recommend it to the council. So I was going to buy a ticket. I thought it might be kind of fun to go to that. So I guess if we want to support it, we'll buy a ticket for the plaza or whatever their designation is. So, you know, I'm sorry that they're not using the street because it really makes it look like the city's having fun. But I understand they have to work with what they do.
Yeah, and I did when I was working with Visit Carmel on that. We had in our initial conversations discussed the possibility of using the footprint of the farmers market versus the Carmel Plaza. And Visit Carmel doesn't usually organize big events. It's not Amy Herzog's wheelhouse. And so there are a lot of logistical challenges, as you all know, to organizing an event. And of course, one of the concerns was, you know, a rain piece of things if we have inclement weather, and it's easier to triage some of that stuff over at the Carmel Plaza. And for any of you who have been there during the summer concert series, it's a pretty nice setup. And so I can see why that they decided to move over there in the end, once, you know, trying to work through some of their logistical issues. So, but thank you all for considering that at the last meeting, and it did get pulled off of the City Council's agenda. So, but you can still go to the event and participate in Culinary Week.
Great. I guess any public comments on this? Okay, don't see any. I think let's back up. Sorry. We on? Yeah. Future agenda items. Does anybody have anything you want to add?
I have two things at this point in time that I think we should revisit. One will come later in June, which is the election of chairs. So we'll make sure that's included in that packet. But also just because of the nature of this year and how busy it's been and where we were with staffing levels, I think it's worth in this downtime revisiting our strategic plan. I know I'm kind of a broken record with that, but we've got some good initiatives on there. You know, our civic class that our series of classes on getting the community to know council members and how to participate in a civil way in government and commissions and all of that. I think that's something that we should revisit. Leslie was working on that before event season really got started. And I was talking to the CRA about it the other day, actually. So I'd like to bring back the strategic plan for a look over and reminder to all of us what we've got going on.
Well, if there's no other comments.
Donna had her hand raised.
Donna, did you? Oh, there you go, Donna.
Yeah, well, before we a few years ago, we did the gathering thing, which of course the pandemic just put a halt big time on that. And we really started to get active with the pumpkins a year ago. That the commission really, I believe, we saw a need and we filled it to try and liven the city and make things better. And I think maybe the strategic plan, even though I don't want more work from January necessarily to April, but to look at what we could do if we wanted to, if things lighten up with the pandemic, other opportunities for the city and for tourists or something. I know we have all the other tourist groups, but I think we really rose to the occasion with Ashley and Leslie's leadership, and we've got a nice momentum. And so the strategic plan may give us more opportunities, or maybe we've done it all and just sort of keep what we've got and make it shine a little brighter.
I agree. Thank you, Donna. Yes, the pumpkin giveaway it's so much fun to be out there. And I was reminding myself, because we didn't do the poinsettias, but we did do the flowers on Mother's Day. And it's so nice to just do something nice for the community. I don't need your email. We don't need to know your name. Here's just a nice thing for you. And I think that is something we should keep up and see if there's opportunities for it throughout the year. And it doesn't necessarily have to be tied with holidays, so that is easy, but just it's good community outreach to let the community know that the city cares and nice things can happen just for no reason.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that's it. So happy holidays, everyone. And with that, I think we will officially adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you, John, for chairing the meeting today.
No problem. Safe travels, and look forward to seeing you all in person soon.
Thank you, John. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Leslie, Sebastian, everyone. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
And happy New Year.
Yep.
Hello, community.